Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick off tonight's discussion with these gentlemen who are in the business of fashion. Somebody that I've looked up to for many years. His style, his flair, his humility, how he carries himself. Such a gentleman. Mr. Eboka is an amazing, amazing entrepreneur and a gentleman, of course. Eboka, a Nigerian designer and entrepreneur, and Shaldon Kopman. Now, Shaldon is the founder of Naked Ape. He's not only the founder of Naked Ape, he's one of the guys that actually taught me style. Back when I was still young and running around, running a record company, making noise all over the country, trying to be a superstar, he put me in line and, he showed me a couple of things in different styles as far as fashion is concerned. And I've been really blessed over the years to have had to work with him for different shoots. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's actually quite an honor, Mr. Eboka, to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you.
I'm very honored. I'm going to touch a little bit about your background and your history.
Yes.
You originally from Nigeria?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And were you based in South Africa or Nigeria?
Well, I left Nigeria about 30-something years aho.
Okay.
I went to the States. I studied there, started my business there in fashion, and then came over to South Africa about 23 years ago.
Yeah. So a lot of entrepreneurs sort of are entrepreneurs and they fall into fashion, but they're not necessarily fashion people.
Absolutely.
You knew from when you were young that you wanted to get into fashion. That's why you had to go and study fashion. Why fashion?
Well, I grew up very creative in art. And I thought the best way to apply, like my father usually said, that you have to apply art, is to go into fashion. And I had a flair of fashion growing up at about, I think 16 years old. I was making clothes for myself. So it was just very natural to get into the business of fashion.
Did your parents understand? Because my parents were very against me getting into the music industry.
Yeah, my parents, my father, especially my dad, didn't understand. Because when I went to high school, I studied science, and all my subjects were in science. So when I then said I'm going to do fashion, it was a big blow on his ego. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I ended up studying fashion.
Wow. And Shaldon, I know you when we were young. We were young and brave and hungry.
Still hungry.
I didn't think that you'd still be in fashion today. Because a lot of people come into certain ventures and they don't stay long. People come and try different things. People start the next venture for 2 years, they disappear. What has kept you going in the fashion industry for so long?
Love, I suppose. Design was very far off my radar, and it's been like a natural progression through travel, through having the opportunity to model, to work in different cities worldwide, getting into styling from there at the time at which you had met me, from there fashion editing, show production, creative direction, and then finally design. So it's been a great progression. It's been a beautiful journey thus far, lots of lessons to learn. Being within design and expressing myself creatively, I couldn't wish for better. I couldn't wish to be in a better space.
Yeah.
The difficult side of things is actually understanding the business of fashion.
Yeah.
And in an ideal world, it'd be wonderful just to go out there and design and create beautiful clothes and dress the celebrity types of the Sbus and everyone else in the world. But the reality is the business of fashion. And the business of fashion is it's brutal, it's harsh, right? It's harsh. It drags you through the mud. I'm going through it right now, and it's harsh.
Would you say what is usually referred to as the white monopoly capital is keeping designers out of the industry? Or what are some of the biggest challenges, especially for black designers?
I would say that, continentally, we are a continent of immense talent, immense creativity. Inspiration and creativity is something that comes out of necessity, right? We do not have what our European and American counterparts have. They have monopoly, of course. They have legacy. They have history. And they have support. So within our space, we've just got to understand some simple things, like a little over 6 companies in the world own majority of the fashion brands that are out there. So 40 of the top luxury fashion brands that you see that have chain stores worldwide, who have beautiful boutiques in the likes of Santon City and so forth, they are owned by certain groups. So there's a support structure to that. As much as we are within this space of where we'd like to own what we do, it is not possible to grow with that mentality, right? Unless you have a certain individual who understands and has a flair for fashion, who comes from a business background, who will be able to say, okay, I'm gonna take X amount of designers who are of African descent under this banner, under this umbrella, and grow them. You grow together.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that one of the biggest barrier in this industry is that it's a very easy industry for people to come into. I studied in the US, and equally like Sheldon, have traveled quite a little bit and has showed in different places. But you'll find that the biggest drawback we have in Africa, you're talking about knocking the door open. Knowledge knocks the door open. We're in an industry that so many people do not realize that it's a very scientific industry, meaning that it's larger than just creating clothes. It starts from creating clothes, but there are so many related industries, and we have not, Europe have a control and the leadership in fashion, not by accident, because after the Second World War, we all know what happened. People have to produce clothes, and it was the beginning of industrialization. And now we say we're in the period of post-industrialization, and the thinking and the re-engineering of industries are very different.
Yes.
But the problem with Africa is that, just like he mentioned, we don't see fashion as a business where that venture capital can go in.
But it's a big business.
Yes, it's bigger than oil. It's bigger than diamond.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's bigger than oil. It's bigger than diamond. But Africans are used to primitive investment, which is raw material.
Yes.
So that creates a drawback in the fashion environment. But having said that, on a smaller scale, we need. I remember when I was judging the smear of International for South Africa, and one of my advices when I look at the student work and their enthusiasm and stuff is to advise them that we cannot talk about Europe without learning from Europe. In Europe, people really, really do fantastic job because they acquire knowledge. There's a lot of apprenticeship.
But there's a lot of brilliant designers in the country as well. But I look at the retail industry, but I don't see a lot of our brands.
No. There's a lot of brilliant designer in Africa generally. There is no structure there. You see what I mean? The structure is not there. Whether on a government level to use fashion as a product that they can market internationally, there is no strategic plan on that. In fact, most of the strategic plan on businesses have undermined fashion. In South Africa, you do have you used to have a very, very thriving fashion industry. When I came here in 1992, in Cape Town, there are a lot of CMTs. You never pass through anywhere in Cape Town without finding CMT. That was how I started.
So would you say it's been controlled now and monopolized?
No. It's all died off.
Died of how?
Because,
Right, so Fred speaks about 1992. If you look at what was happening in the South African fashion industry in the 80s and 70s, look, we were basically sanctioned, This is during the apartheid years. And during those sanctions, we had to make ends meet. We had to develop for ourselves. So we had a booming fashion economy as a result of that. So we boasted an employment of over 1.5 million people within the fashion sector.
And what's the difference?
That was clothing and textile.
Yeah.
Now I don't even think we're up to about 300,000 to be quite honest.
Why?
I do stand to be corrected, but we currently are paying a hell of a lot less for fashion than what we did in the 90s, for example.
But
right.
As a business, at the end of the day, you're a businessman. Why be in a business that you can't thrive in?
Look, number one, passion drives. The love of what you do is soul satisfying, right? Creating a business out of that is a process. So we have a lot of challenges that we have to deal with. And I wouldn't even, when you speak about competition, you've got the likes of fast fashion, right? Fast fashion hasn't done us any favors, right? People don't understand, consumers don't understand where their products are coming from. They don't understand what they are wearing. If it feels good and it looks good and they can get it at an absolute steal of a price, they will buy it, right? Ethical fashion is something that needs to be educated to our consumers. Yeah, Africa right now is all about ethical fashion because that's all we know, right? It takes time to make a beautiful garment. This is a message that needs to transcend into more than just our consumers. It has to become second nature when anybody purchases anything.
And what type of designs, what type of clothing does Mr. Fred Eboka do?
Well, my clothes is very intense. It's influenced by art. It's very emotional, elegant, and stylish. Well, the reason why my niche of the market, in a way, I'm not really complaining.
You don't want the masses.
You know,
You're after a few rich people.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I just made a decision in my life that if a Gucci bag can sell for 50,000 rand, why can't my product sell for 50,000 rand? You know, a dress. You know, and the reason why I decided that was because a client walked into my studio. She was wearing a Fendi shoe, Gucci bag, and she was wearing some fancy suit, and she thought 9,800 per dress was too expensive. And she said, why is this so expensive? I said, no, because it's made by Fred Eboka. And even if it's made with newspaper, it will still cost you the same thing.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I made a decision that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Creativity.
Yeah, you know, at that moment, I made a choice. If I really want to be in this business, you know, to be a pauper or to really make something out of my life. And I decided that I'm actually going to start making things for, you know, I'm going to upscale it to up to 50,000, 60, 80,000. And I've got to focus on my niche. And that's where the knowledge comes in, you know, because you need to understand what you're good at. You know, I look at what he does and does very well. I admire it, but I couldn't do what he does.
Yes.
You know, so I had to focus on what I know how to do best, which is couture.